12 drivers, only 8 spots. The pressure is on tonight, as the top drivers in the eSpeed Contender Series will have 133 laps to punch their tickets into the round of 8. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSRTV's continuing coverage of the eSpeed Contender Series Bomb Track Fabrication Playoffs. Tonight, we're under the lights in Kansas City, Kansas, at the virtual Kansas Speedway for this year's edition of the AMSOIL Kansas 200. I'm Justin Prince, alongside me the move tonight for the next 200 miles is Rachel Whiteford and Gary Weaver. Hugo Ruiz is down trackside in the production truck. Tonight's race is presented by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. Tonight, the pressure is on for many different drivers tonight. Just the final race of the round of 12, 6 total spots for these drivers to fight for. Just 2 total drivers have punched their tickets so far. Rachel, the pressure is on for all of these drivers to have the best performances, with there just being about 15, 16 points between third spot and the cut line.
Absolutely, this is where things get critical for these guys. They've got to be putting the most they can into this event because there's so much to gain.
Absolutely a lot to gain. So far, the 2 drivers who punched their way into the round of 8 so far, Sean Powell and Brandon Holder. Powell at Dover, Holder at Talladega. Brad Neer, Paul Bliss, Marshall Brewery, Scotty Reinshield among the drivers that are in the double-digit points away from the cut line. But the pressure is on for James Torrey and Malik Ray. Malik Ray, the last driver on the lead lap at Talladega. He had the fastest time in qualifying for tonight, though. The 4 drivers under the cut line: Matt Kingsbury, Doug Lemons, Brett Keith, and Keith Stewart. But with that, drivers are getting all set to go for the starting grid. The pressure is on to see who will survive for the next 133 laps under the lights at this tough mile-and-a-half circuit in Kansas City, Kansas. Let's take a look at your starting grid and go 5 at a time for tonight's action, live from Kansas City, Kansas. On the pole tonight, coming from a last place finish on the lead lap at Talladega, is Malik Ray. He'll start alongside Brent Keith on the front row. Doug Lemons is in the 3rd spot, as alongside him is the highest non-playoff driver in John Verga. And rounding out the top 5, the Gen X Racing AMSOIL truck in Sean Powell. Rachel?
Yep, certainly is. Sean Powell, great position there for him starting tonight, of course, but after him, as things are just showing up a bit word from Matt Kingsbury in 6th place, with Scotty Reinshield in 7th place, Mike T. Bruno in 8th place, James Corey in 9th, with Brad Neer in 10th place, the number 9.
Alex Stout in the 62 starts in the 11th place position. 12th is that number 6 of Paris Nelson. Tyler Hayes in the 95 starts 13th. 14th is the number 71 of Bobby Everhart. And then running up the top 15 is going to be the 56 of Kerry Allen Stewart.
Brandon Holder, he's right now having to work his way a lot of spots, starting in the 16th spot tonight, while in the next row, Timmy Logwood Jr. and Marshall Berry. Rounding out the top 20 will be Brad Patterson and Gregory Thompson.
Behind them is Everett F. Lane in 21st with James Hickson, Paul Bliss, Tim Marlowe, Keith Stewart in 25th place with Ryan Lang and Doyle Lawrence in 27th and last place.
27 total trucks on the track tonight. Once again, 133 total laps. Track temperature overcast, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Air temp, track temperature average 65 degrees. As right now the drivers getting all set to go. A majority of the field has been running on the bottom of the racetrack during practice, and we'll have to see who will have the best speeds here tonight to try and punch their ticket into the round of 8. The pace car working its way now through turns 3 and 4. Once again, as they go down towards the front, Doug Lemons would have been moving up to the top spot, as Ray has missed the starting grid apparently, needing a big time result, not making the grid, as Keith will start outside. Green flags up. We're underway for the AMSOIL Kansas 200.
Great start by Keith up at the front. Fantastic run for him, of course. The truck's running that preferred lower line, unlike the Cup cars, which tend to get a little bit higher here at Kansas, but things going to probably drift up that way towards the end of this thing. In a moment behind them is a bit of a congestion as Verga, Powell, Kingsbury and co all getting very much caught up in this. It's interesting to see Matt Kingsbury though in a truck rather than an Indy car, which is where I guess I remember him from most.
Yeah, the Kingsburys different experience in both the trucks and Indy cars. And very strong is Matt Kingsbury here in the eSpeed Contender Series. When it comes to Ray, he started directly from the pits. He is half a track behind in 27th. So that is why he did not start at the front after recording the fastest time in qualifying earlier this week. But right now, Gary, the top 5 currently all single file. In fact, the top 8 all riding along the bottom with Tyler Hayes about to make that 9 on the bottom.
Yeah, and there's only one driver, and that's John Verga, that is not taking the apron in the trioval front straightaway. He'll move to the top side, letting that number 21 and Matt Kingsbury move to the bottom side. Though right behind them on the move is James Torrey in that number 2, and that's going to send Bruno up the racetrack ever so slightly down the back straightaway. And James Torrey, of course, picking a double check. Well, he's 2 positions above the cut line, but he's definitely trying to make positions as quickly and as soon as possible.
In terms of the playoff drivers, for those keeping track, whenever you see it throughout the angles tonight, the playoff drivers are wearing the blue numbers on the sides of their cars, as well as the blue banners on the front windshields, as well as the blue spoilers. So that is to keep in mind in terms of some of the action. But top 6 single file, Mike T. Bruno, one of the development drivers, ends up making the pass now at James Torrey. That'll push him back to 7th. But you're seeing right now, if you get momentum and are able to get underneath someone on the exit of a corner, it can really set you up for a pass very easily, Rachel.
Oh, absolutely, and it's exactly where you really want to be, but you've always got to be careful going that low on the front stretch, that somebody might get above you, and they're not going to have to let you back on the track.
Absolutely, they don't have to really there. But look what's going on in the top 3. Scotty Reinshield shoves a bit up the racetrack as him, Powell, and Lemons almost became a sandwich in the top 3. Lemons loses momentum checking up. The 2 Gen X Racing trucks run 1-2 and get about a 2.5 truck length gap for the time being up at the front.
And Gen X Racing already quickly making a statement, but right now, battle between, well, maybe not yet. Kingsbury looks to the inside in turns 1 and 2. He's going to move up to position at number 4 in turn 3. He'll slide up in front of that 32 of Brent Keith, and Keith moves back up to the outside, not really using that apron really for the momentum essentially that he more than likely wants to get, but he'll fall back in behind that number 21. But Bruno now attacks on the inside as they enter turns 1 and 2. Both that 21 and 32 are under the cut line, so they have to be very, very careful.
They definitely do. Kingsbury tries to cut down just in front of Mike T. Bruno as that pushes Bruno up the racetrack with the momentum, and that opens up the door for Brent Keith. When it comes to these trucks, though, Rachel, you got to remember that a majority of the field, if not the entire field, they're barely lifting around the racetrack. They might be going 100% throttle to as low as maybe 75% throttle at times for the corner entries. Other than that, they're flat out around the entire racetrack trying to carry the speed and momentum.
Oh, absolutely, but they are, and you will see them within this lap, or perhaps already by now. They're going to be lifting more and more and more, because whilst you can hold it flat in the early laps, you need to be coming off that gas so you can save the tyres. Going full throttle is possible for quite a few laps. It's just not advised, because you will rip those tyres to pieces, and you need something for later. If we get a long green run here, they need to have those tyres under the cars. So you'll see them progressively lifting more and more and more. You'll get people who are pushing hard early will fall back because they're using up what they've got, and that's one of the integral parts of getting this racing right, is knowing how much you need to save as soon as you need to save it. Just because you can go flat out doesn't mean you should.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm glad you brought that up, to try and save tires, because that and how these trucks are set up is so important, to be able to carry the speed and carry momentum to try and gain positions, especially now since, as you may notice, everyone has now moved to the top of the racetrack rather than all the way to the bottom for part of that reason, Gary.
Yeah, they want to make sure that they can save their tires, but for second place, Doug Lemons was all over that back bumper of the 27 rather, and he still is trying to somehow put a little bit of pressure on Ryan Shield, who's currently running in second. And again, double checking, he is top 3, actually now third above the cut line. So it's essentially somebody who's above the cut line going against 2 people that are below, and those 2 are still the 70 and 21 who are still single file, and same as the majority of the field, unless you're the 42, then in that case Brad Patterson is falling back on the inside lane. This is essentially kind of like Daytona, where you get freight train, except it's using the top side instead of the low side, and there's no bump drafting involved.
You might want to tell that to Mike T. Bruno, because he did a bit of a bump draft, in fact, through the tri-oval as they went towards the start and finish line. Bruno now backs off a bit of the back of Brent Keith, as that was a very close call where he's right up to the back bumper of Keith. And right now, as the pressure is on for a lot of these drivers, as we talked about, must-win situations for some of these drivers. Keith looking like he might need a win. Lemons looking like that. Keith Stewart in a must.
It's closed up at the front group, but no one's really attempting anything just yet because no one's in a real position to do so. As this run goes on, we'll start to see more and more people's tyre wear becoming an issue, and I just saw some pretty big wiggling there from, I believe that was the car of the number 19. That's Mike T. Bruno. He's going to get a little bit slippery coming off the oval there, so he's trying to do what he can to try and keep this car in one piece, but it's just getting a bit underneath him at the moment. That transition from apron to track is going to get more tricky, though, as he goes for a move here. The tri-oval goes down low there, below Brent Keith, who's actually really struggling at the moment. Maybe burnt what he had up too early on in this race, but nice pass there by Mike T. Bruno as he gets it done. The 2 to the inside there might have an advantage, but the high line here for the 19 will make a good defense. Gives him a faster run off the corner, more momentum. Holds it through. Keith as well at the moment as he'll hold that spot. See the drivers running the high line now. That's a slightly easier run around the corner. Low is easy early on. You've got the tyres to do it. But later on in the race, you are slow lifting around the bottom, whereas if you go higher, you can stay in the gas more and use the tyres less. The less wheel you use, the better it is on the tyres.
And that's going to be key for so many drivers as the laps continue to tick away. Lap 16 of 133 already ticking on by so far. The fastest driver last time by was Matt Kingsbury. Is currently the top 5 are all running in the 30.2 range. Then the next group after that fall down to the 30.5s in terms of the lap times they're turning across the racetrack. That's why it's starting to spread out so much that you'll see on camera between those top trucks at this point. But drivers continue to try and establish what they can do along the high side. Some of them trying to go to the bottom. The question's going to be, who's going to be the ones that drop off the quickest in this terms of a race, especially with the pressure on? Because some drivers in the series, Gary, better at long runs, some of them better at the short run, obviously.
Yeah, some of these drivers, and we've seen that multiple times throughout this entire playoff season, and well, one of them could be the number 20 Malik Ray, but unfortunately, as he really comes very close off of turn number 4, nearly hits the safety barrier on the outside. But as I'm currently looking at the leaders right now, top 4 slowly starting to come back together once again after that small break that the 41 and 27 had. Well, now here comes pretty much the rest of the top 4, but nonetheless, though, back to your point about long runs versus short runs, some of these drivers, like you mentioned,
car is in the grass. Marshall Berry, one of the playoff drivers, spins through the infield. And this is an error situation where turn 4 so important, especially exit. Hitting the wall can send you right down there. Berry cuts across the track. We stay green, but he loses a heck of a lot of time. He's now last on the lead lap.
Oh, huge one for him there. He's got a whole lot of track to make up. He desperately needs a caution right now because that will be massive for him to lose this much momentum. He will not recover that on his own. In fact, if you look at it right now, Marshall Berry just coming out of turn 2, the leader's just heading into it. He's going to be down a lap. He's just not got the speed at the moment, and that's leaving him in a very difficult position. But with nobody else a lap down at the moment, he will be the first car to get away from round, so it's not all over.
I agree with you. The thing is, the distance between him and the leaders right now is 1 total turn. As he's at the end of the tri-oval, the leaders are going through the tri-oval right now. That was to get to my next point because of turn 4, especially as it gets more and more through the run. If you end up carrying too much speed on the exit and tap that wall, it can send you and whoever's underneath you off into the infield and damage your car. That's the case with Berry. Timmy Logwood Jr., who is out near the back of the field, did the same thing a lap before.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I don't think Berry actually even hit the outside wall. Maybe just on the bottom side.
Caution flies. Marlowe on the backstretch, the 28 car. I believe this might have been on his own. Yeah, unforced error. Coming out to turn 2, back towards the rear of the pack, 22nd place. just oversteers, gets the back end loose correct, and slams into the outside barrier right as Hickerson is coming past him. That was, yeah, the car got loose, and unfortunately he ended up getting really kind of out of whack.
And you've seen that there with the AMSO instant replay, and Marlowe was starting to really start to fall off in the past few laps. I noticed that time truck snaps loose, and as you mentioned, smacks into the wall, brings out the first caution of the day on lap 22. And that helps a lot of drivers. That helps guys like Ray, like Marshall Berry, all catch back up because they were still so far behind on the grid. And now it's the order of the day. It's 4 fresh tires and fuel.
Yes, it is. Oh, I do apologize.
That's all right, Rachel. But yeah, I was going to say that this is, again, the race within the race as per usual. This is where you have to be smooth into your pit box and out. Make sure you don't go over the speed limit. And of course, make sure you hit your pit sign as well.
And everyone stomping onto the boxes. Expect everyone, again, 4 fresh tires as they continue to stomp their way through the boxes. The question is, who will come away with the lead on a pit road as they continue to work their way for fuel? Ray is just getting into his box now as the leaders are going out, as Sean Powell comes out first, Scotty Reinshield second, Mike T. Bruno gains 2 spots to third with Kingsbury Lemons in the top 5.
Yeah, that certainly will make things interesting when they get off pit road and who gets off where as the field pulls to get out of the pits now. And I believe we're going to have the 41 Powell getting away first with 27 in second place. No change for those guys. And I believe Kingsbury, though, may have had a slightly slower stop. He has lost a couple of spots there. No, yes, he has 1.
Yeah, Kingsbury, a 15.2 on the pit stop, a 14.9 to 14.8 for the rest of the top 5, basically. Lemons, though, was also a part of the 15.5s, rather, pardon me, but very quick stop from Bruno, about 0.3 quicker, as well as about a second faster in the pit lane, gets him up to the 3rd spot, the highest non-playoff driver in tonight's running of the AMSOIL Kansas 200. Tonight's race presented by AMSOIL. AMSOIL specializes in developing synthetic lubricants that offer innovative answers to the greatest challenges vehicles and equipment present. The extraordinary performance of AMSOIL synthetic lubricants in a range of markets, automotive, power sports, industrial, racing, and more, has made their influence in the industry unmistakable and their brand highly respected. Their commitment to innovation has resulted in legions of brand loyal customers. Find your local retailer online at amsoil.com. And speaking of AMSOIL, 3 of the AMSOIL sponsored trucks start in the top 3 as we're at 1 to go down the backstretch. As they continue to follow on the pace card, the fourth place truck is Matt Kingsbury, with Doug Lemons and James Torrey rounding out the top 3 rows. Gary, what do you expect to see with this restart now that they've restacked the field?
Well, that 19 is definitely going to be all over that back bumper, the 41. He's not afraid to race with the playoff drivers, and he's definitely shown that he has the truck to do it. Unfortunately, though, he didn't make it in this season, as he's mentioned earlier.
Pace car goes off the track in turn 4. Powell is the control truck in the 41. We're off and away. Green flags up at the stand. We're back on our way for the AMSOIL Kansas 200. And a great start on the bottom for Bruno and Powell.
Yeah, great start there by those guys. Exactly what they needed to get themselves down single file here and puts them in a fantastic spot to continue this thing, get back up to speed and get a good lap under them. But wow, they all got tyres on that stop, so everyone should be racing pretty hard here off the go as the 19 of Bruno goes to the outside early on to try and find a different groove on the 41, and it's working for him right now.
Yeah, right now everyone running on the bottom. Look at the run, though, from Matt Kingsbury. They're 2x2 at the front. Mike Bruno tries to ride on the high side. Kingsbury, a mega run, makes it 3 wide into turn 1. He'll make contact with Powell. Powell slides up. Reinshield checks up. We stay green, but a heck of a move. Moves Matt Kingsbury rather to the bottom alongside Mike Bruno and stacks them 3 wide down the back.
Big damage, though.
Yeah, this is not going to end well for anybody. Oh boy, 14 almost got turned there, unfortunately, by the 56 of Stewart. So somehow everybody's still going. But yeah, like Rachel pointed out, there's some heavy damage for some of these drivers that made contact. I believe it was the 41 that may have a little bit of a bent side as well. Was that Kingsbury as well? Yeah.
Yeah, Sean Powell right now damaged right on the left front door, for the fender rather, along with the door area after the contact going through the corner. And that, in turn, helped Matt Kingsbury with the run out of all the way from the fourth spot on the restart to take the lead here for the AMSOIL Kansas 200. But don't look now. Mike T. Bruno and Doug Lemons are still providing pressure right behind him as they're side by side for second.
Yeah, they really are right now, and Kingsbury doing what he does best, getting himself involved in that one. It's not Lemons, sorry, not Kingsbury. 21 it is up front as he's making a move now. Trying to get alongside there, the 19 truck up top. He's been good up there. He's found a groove he really likes with that machine, but not going to have momentum right now. Lemons just behind him, going to pull through by turn 1. Ranshield leading the pack behind him with James Torrey and Brent Keith just coming back at this one. Started second, but really just lost a lot of speed off the start of this thing.
Yeah, and that was in part with the checkup, really. Look at this from Lemons. Knows he needs to get to the bottom, gets underneath the left rear quarter panel of Kingsbury. Can he hold the momentum, though, out of 4? No, he cannot. Kingsbury cuts across back in front of his nose. Lemons tucks back in a file with Mike Bruno still behind in third.
At 70 is doing everything he can to get up to that first place position. But both of these drivers, just double checking to make sure, yeah, both of these drivers are under the cut line coming into this race, but this could be a not really a must-win situation. But Lemons, though, under the 21, can he beat him to the line, squeezes him up on the outside wall almost, and somehow Lemons stays off of that 21, but there's only about a foot of space between both of those drivers.
You can see the speed they're trying to carry through turn 1 side by side, 183 miles per hour even from both of them. Kingsbury again gets the run on the outside as they'll be still side by side through turn 3. Lemons, though, again has the advantage of the bottom side. Kingsbury now tries to move up towards the high side as Lemons still cannot clear him with the momentum on that higher side. That is starting to come into play as the tires wear down in these first 10 laps of this run.
And that's it. These guys are pushing incredibly hard off this start, so tires getting a bit bad for them as it's 2x2 for the lead here. There's 70 on the low side, 21 on the high, 19 up top with 27 below him as this one gets very busy. Scotty Ranshield getting himself very much involved here. Could definitely play a role in this. He's showing he has the power to win this. 2 coming back behind them, James Torrey as well, as down drops to 21. Matt Kingsbury holds that lead again.
And it looks like now someone that we talked about who was up at the front on the restart before the contact, Sean Powell, he's ducked his way into the pits in the 41 truck. Remember, he has been locked now into the round of 8 and was the regular season points champion. He's now sitting in the pits along with Tim Marlowe.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for that 41, but he, again, like you mentioned, he is locked into the round of 8, so he doesn't really have anything to worry about, as this is, again, the final round for the round of 12, and this is pretty much just a entire crunch time for all these drivers as we hit 100 laps to go this time, only 33 complete, working the 34th lap right now, and the majority of these drivers, I'm noticing, again, migrated back to the top side of the racetrack, and well, essentially the only time that they use the bombs on is trying for a pass, release the middle lane.
And that was right where I was about to get towards because...
Oh, trouble off in turn number 4.
And that's going to bring out the caution flag as trouble again, turn 4, Everett F. Lane. Perry Snelson involved in the incident as that'll be the second caution of the night for the AMSOIL Kansas 200.
Yeah, problems on the racetrack, and it's going to get a bit heated now. These guys get themselves as involved as they can, but you got to get some room, and with tires dropping off like they do, some people pushing harder than they are. This is what really kind of pushes this thing into a caution-filled race, is when these guys just bunch up, they're pushing past the glimpse of the car, and it unfortunately ran out of racing room.
Yeah, just ran out of room going side by side so many times. There's a chance for that to happen when you're at Kansas, with it being such sort of a single line track by this point of the run, where you need to basically get a run towards the bottom to try and do anything while everyone's on the top side. Everyone, though, comes in towards the pits, as it looks like it'll be the order once again of 4 fresh tires and fuel.
After that 4 tire stop last time, maybe some of these drivers have already had their tires looked at, and they're deciding maybe to go with 2 tires this time around. That's something that we'll have to see with the pit times, as everyone is smooth into their pit stops, or pit boxes rather. And Malik Ray again pulling in a little bit late, but seems to be a little bit quicker than usual though compared to last time around.
Yeah, everyone off and away as first out of the box, Matt Kingsbury takes the lead out of pit road. Scotty Reinshield to second. Doug Lemons, Mike Bruno, and Brad Patterson round out the top 5. As you see Sean Powell, who's a few laps down, back on the racetrack, meanwhile 3 laps down, and might take an opportunity, if he could, to wave. Unfortunately, had to start behind the rest of the drivers. But either way, restacks the field. Majority of the field again still on the track. Just 2 drivers laps down so far tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's an unfortunate situation to be in, of course, but he can start to get some of these back. He's had to get a lot of repair work done, which has cost him time there, but if these guys keep wrecking, he'll get those laps back in no time.
The 2 drivers once again laps down. Sean Powell getting repairs, 3 laps down. Tim Marlowe, he had been getting repairs as well, just left the pits, 12 laps down. He is last on the racetrack. End of longest line due to the caution triggered, going to Everett F. Lane in the number 24 Lowline Racing truck as well for that incident. As they continue to go behind the pace car and prepare for the restart in the next few moments, today's race also presented by Bomb Track Fabrication. Bomb Track Fabrication specializes in building custom race cars and CNC machine chassis components from both racing and industrial sectors. All other components are made in the U.S. For more information on how to get free shipping and 5% off your first order, go to bombtrackfabrication.com. And right now, as these drivers prepare for this upcoming restart, so many strong drivers up the front. We've talked about Kingsbury and him needing to be down 5 points behind the cut line coming into tonight, how important it was. A good run for him. Scotty Reinshield, he's in a great position. Doug Lemons, though, the way it's running with a lot of the drivers he needs to battle with to get up into the cut line around him, it's starting to look more and more like he needs some bad luck to happen to some, as well as a possible win now situation, Gary.
And for Lemons, he's been pretty much equal, so hopefully he definitely needs to, let's see, coming into this race, of course, like you mentioned, it pretty much is a must-win situation for that number 70, unless he gets really lucky, as the lights are out and everyone goes double file. He started 3rd, he's currently in 3rd, but he's 13 positions off of the playoff cut line, so essentially, even if he did get to 1st place, then he would still be roughly about 11 points out, not including bonus points, and that's just prior to that. So it's going to be very, pretty much like you mentioned, a must-win situation, or the 70 Bruno gets lucky and he has 1 or 2 drivers in front of him. For example, Malik Ray completely finished where they weren't really expected to finish.
And that's where I was about to turn to, because Ray, he's currently in the 13th spot after starting from the pits and having to be half a track behind after having the fastest time in qualifying. He's in a great spot right now to try and gain some spots because he's so good, we've seen throughout the season at these speedways, Rachel.
Oh, certainly, and he's one of those drivers that can really gain this sort of stuff back, and adversity sometimes brings out the best in a driver. Being not in a great position usually forces them to do more than they normally do.
With that, they enter the restart zone. It looks like Patterson told Lemons to go. The green flag's up, and the flag standers were backing away for the Amsoil Kansas 200. And Kingsbury's already off to a 2-truck length lead into 1.
Very dominant start by that number 21, and then it's, well, the 70 and 27 back to battling each other. Same with the 4-2 Brad Patterson. Came from pretty much out of nowhere, from 19th onto the starting grid. He's all the way up in 4th place right now, trying to get by the 19 of Bruno, as the 70 of Lemons tries to get by the 27 of Reinshield, trying to defend that 2nd place position. But with that outside run off the corner, that 27 of Reinshield is definitely not going anywhere for the time being.
Now he's trying to apply the pressure, still side by side with Lemons for the battle for 2nd. It's about to become a 3-truck battle, though, as now Patterson gets underneath Reinshield and starts to get a run. Bobs weaves and bobbles. Caution flag is out, though, because there's a wreck down the backstretch. Brandon Holder, Ryan Lange involved in this one.
Oh, it's a big one, unfortunately, and it happened with a 2 to 3 car lash up, as I believe, I'm looking for the number of the truck now, the 48 truck here. John Verga gets wiggly on the apron, wobbles, which makes some of the guys above him with 3 wide come up. The 31 comes up to avoid him, Ryan Lang, and he slams into the 71 truck, into the 62, and bam, round they go. Multiple trucks involved.
Absolute calamity. Multiple trucks involved, as you mentioned. Brandon Holder being the only playoff truck involved, of course, being the Talladega winner last week. But this is going to once again stack things on up and make things a little interesting. Multiple trucks now having to go towards the pit lane to get repairs after that major incident involving at least 6, 7, 8 trucks down the backstretch.
And Lemons heads to pit road. Nope, never mind. Fake out. Oh, right, that was very clever. But Bruno definitely heads to pit road. Probably a little bit of a different strategy for that 19. We'll see what he does. But luckily for, again, Brandon Holder, he's pretty much fine. He was locked in, I believe, since a double check here. But nonetheless, he was locked in since Talladega. So that number 5 is very, very lucky that he's not on a must-win situation, or at least outside of the cut line.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, as the drivers now stopping into the boxes. And although we ran a few laps, why not try and go with an alternating strategy, maybe to Rachel, try and gain maybe some kind of track position, and even if it is a half a tenth or a tenth rather per lap compared to everyone else who's going to stay out here.
Oh, certainly, and it's perhaps worth it. I'm not entirely sure I'd go for that option, but it's doable.
And right now, there is a total now of 5 trucks now put a lap down after that, 6 rather. The drivers involved, Lange, Stout, Holder, Snelson, among those now having to go a lap down. Lane also having to get repairs and coming out of the pits after that incident as they continue to fall behind the pace car. Real quick, tonight's coverage of the eSpeed Contender Series is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free, or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. And right now, as they continue to fall behind with about 2 to go until the restart here right now, the top 5 is as follows right now, with Kingsbury, Lemons, Reinshield, Patterson, and Brad Neer rounding out the top 5. And don't look now, some drivers that need to get a good point stay are starting to come up through the field. Keith Stort's up to 8th, and Ray, who started 13th before that during that restart rather, gained 2 spots going down the backstretch.
Now, I wasn't really sure on why Malik Ray wouldn't try and capitalize on that first place position, so he's doing very good though, as he's only about, well, again, just by a rough estimate here, it looks to be about minus 10 points essentially. Not really sure where anything falls in terms of live scoring for points, but that's just for Malik Ray alone. Although, again, it is another good strategy. He's done this many times, and of course, don't forget that in the first 3 races, essentially the entire round of 16, he swept all of those races.
Yes, he's an extremely dominant driver who made the top 40 cut to go towards the road to pro for this upcoming winter, to try and make a run towards maybe making the NASCAR Pete Canty-Freeze iRacing Series. And a majority of the season was while being basically an independent driver and using VRS setups and adjusting from that and learning as the year has gone on after 4 years of trying to battle for that. Either way, 1 to go into the restart. Matt Kingsbury Lemons will be on the front row for the restart, as mentioned before. At this point, though, it's the question of who's going to be able to, I think, again, try and get a good run, because if we stay green, it's going to be at the point where drivers will have to make 1 more pit stop. Yeah,
it certainly is, and that's 1 more pit stop in terms of fuel, not tires. This is not going to be a fuel limited race for certain. I will tell you that right now. This will be a tire race all the way. 2 more stops on tires at least.
2 more stops on tires, but again, some drivers might elect to go for the long run. There's a lot of drivers in the series, Lemons particularly, who are known to go for the short pits. As the pace car's off, they enter the restart zone. Matt Kingsbury leads them back to the green flag as we're back underway for the Amsoil Kansas 200.
Same performance and very well by that number 21 of Matt Kingsbury to get up ahead, but this time though it's going to be Ryan Shield falling in front of the 70 of Lemons. There's Brad Neer in that number 5 position, 5 positions after where he started, which was 10th.
And Brad Neer actually scored 4th now after the pass to Patterson. And so he is up to +6 since the drop of the green flag earlier on tonight from the first lap. Brad Patterson +14 as they head down the front stretch. Top 5 all single file. The run, though, from Neer, it's going to put him underneath Dunk Lemons. He goes side by side into turn 1 as he'll make the pass to move up to 3rd.
Bit of congestion there right behind him. The 42 car hops up. That's Brad Patterson. He got very nearly caught there between the 70 and the 32 trucks, so he has to keep an eye on where he's going. Things are getting a little close down there, and there's some back bumpers already been out of shape at this stage.
Yeah, a lot of contact between some of the drivers. Scotty Reinshield has a dent now on the right rear bumper for his truck as they're side by side again for 4th as Lemons goes back through the field. Patterson goes up to 4th spot with now Brent Keith trying to fight side by side for the 5th spot. And look who's behind them. Kerry Allen Stewart, one of the development drivers. He's side by side with fellow development driver Gregory Thompson.
And just up front, though, it's starting to become a very close battle. I'm keeping an eye on the back battle just in case anything happens, but Brett Neer was all over that back bumper of the 21. He'll look to the inside, almost completely almost got into the left rear quarter panel of Kingsbury, but Brad Neer forced his way essentially up to 2nd place, but Ryan Shield again battling back on the outside, but that 32.
Oh, trouble! Backstretch! James Torrey and Gregory Thompson spin down the backstretch, caution flags out. James Torrey's engine has been absolutely destroyed after making contact with Thompson down the backstretch. That was after it looks like Thompson got caught up, it looked like, with Ray, as you'll see on the Amsoil instant replay.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems to be one of those situations where too many trucks in one small spot was definitely a problem, but that was a little awkward for those guys.
Yeah, maybe a bit too much of a run. Gets into the back of Ray. That ends up deflecting a bit, trolling up a little bit into the truck underneath him. They both spin, and now the caution flag's back out. That was inside the top 10 and brings the caution back out. So now it's going to be the question. We did not see too many drivers elect to pit last time. We might see many more this time as they head towards the pit entry, led by Kingsbury. And everyone is going in for the pit party.
I'm a little bit surprised, but I mean, it does make sense, but they're about 14 laps on their tires from what I'm seeing, but maybe they're just trying to make sure that they have the best and most fresh tires, but I'd be saving. I would stay out, just lay out in the back and wait for another caution to come out if that is the case from the pattern that we've been seeing. That's usually how it is at short track, well, at least super speedways here. Is John Verga, I think 70 of Lemons may have overshot his pit stall. Yep, he did. He had to back up ever so slightly.
That's going to lose him about maybe half a second there. Kingsbury comes out first with Neer, Reinshield, Keith, and Patterson in the top 5. And a lot of time lost there from Lemons. He is all the way still sitting in his pit box, in fact, finally out and away as he'll go all the way back, it looks like, to at least 15th on the starting grid.
Not a good one for him there, unfortunately. That leaves him in some pretty bad position there. Thompson's truck, wow, pretty hammered. I think he'll be in there for some time, never mind 15th on the starting grid.
And look who's up to 6th place now after gaining an extra spot in the pits. Malik Ray is up to 6th with a chance to start on the outside as he's been picking up more and more speed as the race has gone on, and in total has been in the top 5 for the best lap times since the drop of the green flag today.
It's very great performance by that number 20 Malik Ray, and you got very lucky. I was going to mention that wreck that we saw is a little bit of resorting, it seems, but nonetheless, though, Malik Ray, I thought he got bumped and maybe just a little bit loosened up there from just from that caution, but he was really chancing it there with that little bit of a block from to the 88, or at least what it seems, maybe just trying to follow the driver in front of him. But Malik Ray's going to have to be pretty careful if he still wants to make it to the next round.
And talk about the run, though, with Brad Neer, because he was making a charge for the race lead prior to the caution that we're seeing on our screen, just gaining more and more speed as the race has gone on, +8 since the start of the race tonight, and had really his fastest laps, I think, of the entire race overall, trying to charge for the lead there, Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. Some incredible laps there from him, but a lot of race still to go, and incredible laps in the first 50. Isn't going to help in the last 70.
That's going to be the big question as they continue to run behind the pace car, approaching lap 52 of 133. Still a ways to go. Still, a lot can happen here at Kansas for the Kansas AMSOIL 200. As we'll see if they go down to 1 to go for the restart. Sean Powell and Tim Marlowe will go for wave arounds. They are now waved around the pace car as they'll stack up 2 by 2 once again side by side, with Kingsbury leading them on the bottom, Brad Neer on the outside. In the third spot will be Scotty Reinshield with Brett Keith and Brad Patterson rounding out the top 5. But keep an eye on Ray and Stewart, needing good runs, in decent playoff positions right now, with the rest of the top 10 made up of drivers who are either outside the playoffs or development drivers looking to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and it's going to be critical for those development drivers to try and have a great showing here. I mean, what sells your ability to drive more than a great performance in one of these races, live on the broadcast, being seen by everybody? This is what those guys are dreaming of. This is what they need to get themselves to the big show on a more permanent register.
Definitely right now, those drivers, specifically Mike T. Bruno amongst the group, as well as Kerry Allen Stewart. John Verga, who is a veteran for the series, is in the 10th spot, but is carrying the rookie stripe for the 2018 season. With that, though, the pace car drops off the racetrack. Kingsbury's been great on the restart so far tonight. He enters the restart zone. He's off and away. We're back and away for the AMSOIL Kansas 200. And you
busy, congested start there, I should say. Just behind them, the 3 to 42 and 19 and 32, all bunched up there off that start, just not quite finding a way down.
Yeah, right now they are nearly 3 wide down the backstretch, in fact, trying to battle things out. Brad Patterson up onto the high side. Mike T. Bruno, he's been forcing his way to the bottom multiple times tonight, able to get towards the bottom top to the 3rd spot. But look at Ray. He's on the back bumper of Patterson. He's looking to get himself to 4th, nearly in the grass as they enter turn 1 with a huge charge.
That 20 is immediately on the roll, but that 42 is not giving him a lot of space. Patterson trying to loosened up the 20 ever so slightly, trying to somehow side draft that number 20 and stall that momentum out. But my goodness, that was... Oh my goodness, Malik Ray is really starting to charge up the field now that he's more comfortable. But for the lead, though, Reinshield looks to the inside of the 21 of Kingsbury, side by side across the start-finish line. That time at the line, it went to that 21, but the 27 now is going to be up in the first place position. Here comes Bruno following, and the number 20, Malik Ray, as the 21 Kingsbury falls back to what is now 4th place.
The top 2 now trying to hold up the momentum of Ray, as that kick-ass beef jerky truck goes inside of Bruno, moves himself to 2nd, as he has gone all the way from near the back of the field, 27th from the pits, now up to 2nd. Tries to get the run now with Scotty Reinshield as he moves himself up to the wall, tries to carry the momentum now behind the number 27 of Reinshield as they head towards the backstretch, as he ducks his way all the way down to the dotted line towards the quarter panel. Can he keep it underneath Reinshield? Dives it on in. They're side by side, wheel to wheel, going through 3 and 4.
A little bit of contact there between the 20 and the 27. 27 really forced his way down there, but the 20, just Malik Ray in the right spot here to hold himself on the inside. Should be a good advantage, but the 27 should hold that higher line here. They're going to stay too wide. This will bring the 19 and the 21 behind them into this action as they just slow themselves down running side by side.
And Bruno wants to rejoin the action for the battle for the lead. He moves to the bottom, tries to follow Ray on that bottom side as they'll exit turn 3 and 4, move up the track a touch. Ray tries to push Reinschild up towards the bankings through the tri-oval as Bruno stays on the apron this time. Malik Ray has cleared him. He's into the lead in the kick-ass beef jerky number 20 and takes the lead for the AMSOIL Kansas 200.
Yeah, we saw Malik Ray move up to the top side and then decide to protect that bomb lane from Bruno. Now it's going to be Bruno starting to make a challenge for that first place position as a 21 of Reinschild falls back ever so slightly, currently to third place, but right now that at 19 of Bruno somehow trying to catch up to that number 20 machine that's directly in front of him. Essentially looks to be a little bit of a battle but for third place as Kingsbury again is not letting go of Reinschild for the time being. These two somehow keep finding each other.
And Reinschild has a bit of a problem because going into the entry of turn 1, he tapped the wall and now has some slight damage on the right front fender that will affect his truck a little bit aerodynamically as they all go underneath the lap traffic going into turn number 1. Top 3 now single file. The top 4 and 5 is now being held up as Ryan Lange moves as high as he can, but opens up the door for Brad Patterson to attack for the third spot.
God, he really does. The third spot getting very dicey in any contact with the number, I think that's a 56 car there. Gary Allen Stewart on the low side doing what he can to try and keep himself relevant at this front of the race, but God, the race is getting super close up here and these guys are pushing really hard.
And here's the problem for Gary Allen Stewart. You can see the top side. It's like flipping a switch. They are all riding on the high side, the top drivers. Alan Stewart is the only one on the bottom side. So the closest time he can try and come back up is maybe in front of Brent Keith. Until then, he'll try and battle as much as he can on the bottom side to try and fight back, but he's going to lose a lot of momentum and burn out his tires a little bit even more so each turn as he finally gets in front of Brent Keith.
And finally, somehow managing to get in front of that number 32 machine is Gary Allen Stewart. Very amazing job, but right now that battle between first and second is starting to heat up once again. Bruno moves to the inside. Nope, calls it off actually. Looked to the inside for a few moments, but decides to follow that number 20 into turns 3 and 4. Same line, they'll have to move low, but that's what they've been doing pretty much every single time off of turn number 4, taking to this apron as much as they can, and can pretty much put the top 4, qualify the top 4 is essentially all the same distance. And right when I say that, well, the 20 got a great run. The 19 had his own, and all right side by side for third place is going to be Brad Patterson and Scotty Reinschild as Patterson looks to the inside and turn 3 backs off instead.
Patterson trying to move up towards that middle line that we talked about to try and make a pass work. Has to back off, loses some time in fact, and will take a couple laps probably to regain on Scotty Reinschild as they have to work their way around lap traffic now with Bobby Eberhard on the high side. But here's the interesting thing. Ray is moving to the bottom in 1 and 2, but back to the high side in 3 and 4. Rachel, why do you think he might be going towards that line for turns 1 and 2 rather than riding the high side like a majority of the field has been doing in 1 and 2?
Well, it's interesting. It depends on how these guys have chosen to set those cars up and find out how they want to actually get their car to run. Some of these cars are going to be designed to run a little bit better later on when the track's hotter, more rubbered in. And some of these cars are designed for the start of the race. So that's why we'll see that shift in the different setup orientations and how these guys race their cars. Some are just better on hotter tracks.
Yeah, right now the average track temp has gone up 3 degrees since the drop of the green flag tonight. 68 degrees now. Remember, it started up at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. As the top 3 start to pull away ever so slowly from Brad Patterson and Matt Kingsbury in the 4th and 5th spots. Fastest driver on track last time was Brad Neer in the 9 truck as they continue to work their way through turns 1 and 2, approaching the halfway point here for the AMSOIL Kansas 200, Gary.
They're getting really close, and while that 19 is moving to the top side, as the Malik race actually moves to the low side, and 19 stays to the top side. He'll look to the inside off turn number 2, dives up top as the 20 protects, nowhere to go, and well, right now that number 19 is trying to get around that number 20 for the time being, but unfortunately cannot get it done on the trial.
Yeah, he can't get underneath there to make the move work. Ray loses the run again down the backstretch. That holds them up in 3 and 4 for a bit of a defensive move. As now they continue to go back to the high side. Brad Patterson, though, he's trying to diamond off the corner through 4. He gets underneath Scotty Reinshield as they'll be now side by side heading into turn 1. Can Patterson make a move work? As they try and push their way down a bit down the racetrack, Patterson moves towards the bottom. Reinshield defends the high side. They stay in the same spots.
Yeah, they're certainly doing their pushing as hard as they can to make this thing function. As the leaders are running the high side at the moment, everyone is sitting in line, running this thing patiently. 68 laps in the books. 68
laps in the books, just past the halfway point, and that means it's time for your midway race report. The iRacing Midway Race Report brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. As the action's going on, a pass for second just happened with Scotty Reinshield as they try and keep up with Malik Ray, who leads the field by 3 to 4 tenths of a second right now down the front stretch. Reinshield trying to now defend Patterson at the same time for the 3rd and 4th spots with Mike Bruno along with the top 5. Bradneer is currently 6th with Kerry Allen Stewart 7th, Brent Keefe in 8th. Keith Stewart in a must-win situation back in 9th, and Doyle Lawrence rounds out the top 10, Rachel.
Certainly does. P11 is Doug Lemons with John Verga, Marshall Berry, Tyler Hayes, Everett F. Lane in 15th place, currently racing with James Hickson in 16th place, Gregory Thompson with Timmy Logwood Jr., first car 1 lap down, Paul Bliss and Sean Powell in 20th place.
And then the rest of the drivers, some of which are not on the track. Bobby Everhart, 12 laps down, still sitting in pit road 21st. He's getting ready to roll off now. So that position between Everhart and Tim Marlowe, who's now scored in 21st, will switch. Everhart moves to 22nd. 23rd is Ryan Lang, who is off the track. James Torrey in 24th, still on the track. 21 laps down. Doc Stout, 25th, 26th. Brendan Holder, those two sitting in pit road. And Perry Snelson is 27th out of this race.
That's been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. Right now on lap 72 of 133 of the AMSOIL Kansas 200 for the eSpeed Contender Series. The final
trouble. Yeah, sorry about that, Justin. Somebody at the wall of turn 4, and that was Mike Bruno, unfortunately. And I believe he got a little bit of help from that number 9 in the process.
Yeah, Mike Bruno, as you just heard Gary Weaver mention, hitting the wall after getting a run behind from Bradneer. And looking at it myself here, just ended up hooking his way into the wall, and that's going to be significant damage, I think, on that right side of the truck here, Rachel, that could hurt him for the rest of the race, although he is defending pretty well for that 9th spot.
Yes, and he is, and he's doing what he can at the moment to hold on to it, but bit of a wall slap. It's going to cost you here, of course, in top end speed, and with a bit of damage like he has on that truck, it's going to knock his top end down. He'll be trying to drift back. That 7 car of Keith Stewart will be making a move, but this could save him time to get the repairs done. The corner
down the back stretch. Doug Lemons and John Verga. It's a big one. Doug Lemons involved in the incident down the back stretch after losing control of his truck. And as you'll see on the AMSO instant replay, nowhere for John Verga to go as Lemons gets bumped around and gets some damage to the left side of his truck.
And that's unfortunate for that number 70 of Doug Lemons. He almost had it, and then the 40 of John Verga just had no idea where he was going to go. Verga tried to dive lower than usual, lower than where the 70 was placed, but unfortunately couldn't really get low in time and hit the 70 of Lemons twice, unfortunately, and this is not going to help Lemons, as again, coming into this race 2 positions under the cut line.
he had been 13 points in total back of the cut line. Remember, Ray was on the cut line. That's going to possibly change with him at the time of the caution up to a 2.4 second lead, but things restacked up. Everyone ducks down through the pits after the caution with the spin involving the Express Motorsports truck down the backstretch.
Yeah, one of those crashes, it was so hard to avoid. Verga did everything. He checked that truck up, and to be fair, on the banking here, I'd have held my line and stayed high, because most oval racing, the trucks will go down the track, especially when they're pointing that way. So I think it is one of the snap decisions he made, and probably the worst one. If he'd had a spotter in the stand, I'd have been yelling at him, go high, go high, go high, because when he's pointing down the track, he's going to go down it. So one of those 50-50 shots that just didn't pay off.
Meanwhile, race out of the pits. Malik Ray comes out first. Scotty Reinshield playing a bit of strategy. He elects to let Brad Patterson start on the outside for this restart. So Scotty Reinshield wanting to be on the preferred bottom line rather than having to be on the high side, where it's so hard to ride along on that said high side on the restarts before that line works in after 10 laps.
And Reinshield going to be a little bit maybe of a disadvantage here, but he's got Brad Neer currently and actually double checking. Somebody stayed out, I believe, or Brad Patterson actually. Yeah, Brad Patterson did go to the pit road, so he snuck up there. So this is going to be a little bit of a different thing for Reinshield, as he's going to be starting behind that number at 20, Malik Ray, and then there's going to be Brad Neer restarting 4th, Kingsbury restarting 5th. I'm pretty sure that he is definitely not going to be used to this, but he's determined to get back up to the top position.
Ryan Lange has officially parked his truck for the rest of the night. Remember, he was involved in early incidents, was 26 laps down to 24th. Three drivers rather are going to go for waiver rounds: Paul Bliss, Sean Powell, and James Torrey. But again, right now, as you talked about, the top 5 currently all but one playoff drivers right now. Brad Patterson having a heck of a night tonight. Has a bit of damage, though, on the front of his truck that, Rachel, might maybe affect him a little bit, but we'll have to see with that Dark Matter Designs truck.
Yeah, we certainly will. It's one of those situations where we'll have to wait and see exactly how this one plays out. But as I mentioned, any slight damage typically has a fairly big impact at fast tracks like this, so you'll have to get what he can fixed.
Yeah, and right now Doug Lemons is among those drivers getting some repairs fixed right now. And this is continuing to be an evolving playoff picture where drivers that need to have strong runs are now at the end of the top 10 drivers, including Brent Keith, Keith Stewart, and Marshall Berry are currently running in the group of 8th through 11th, with Tyler Hayes in the 9th spot breaking up that contingent. So they're going to need to have some strong runs. Remember, Keith was running up towards the front, Brent Keith rather, at the start of the race, and has been dropping back as more and more restarts happen, it seems.
And it's very unfortunate for that number 32 to be dropping back a little bit more and more often. Definitely the wrong direction. He, again, starts second, so minus 6 positions from where he started, and he's definitely not going the right direction. He's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 playoff drivers in front of him. So he is fine for the time being, at the very least, in terms of at least on-track position of everybody else. But he's got somebody directly behind him, and that's the 7 of Keith Stewart, who is really looking for a must-win situation. Minus 27 points at the very bottom of the cut line coming into this race.
And right now, it's not looking like he's gaining much points in terms of that, because all drivers except for Doug Lemons are currently in front of them right now. So it's minuscule gains, if anything, needing a must-win. Drivers roll their way through turns 3 and 4. Still a ways to go, though. A lot can still change throughout the race as we enter lap 79 of 133. Restart coming up here as Ray leads them down to the green flag. We're backing away for the Amsoil Kansas 200 with a very strong start from Ray.
Yes, a great launch there for him as he gets things going at this point, and congestion behind as drivers trying to get themselves into place. 42 slots down in front of the 9 of Brad Neer, trying to do exactly what he has to get that car running in the right direction. But Malik Ray, fantastic launch off the line.
The thing is, though, I heard from race control somebody has been given a drive-through penalty for being on the apron. I'm trying to hear the exact driver, but the pass-through penalty has been handed out to one of the drivers for the restart for passing along the apron, it appears. No one ducking down this time. You're not supposed to restart on the apron. Ray was restarting on the apron, so a pass-through penalty, if I'm hearing this right, might be coming up for the race leader.
It's going to be completely devastating, and of course that's...
Oh, trouble!
Oh, yeah, there goes the 27. Huge impact, and this is not going to help him out whatsoever, and almost more drivers involved. Sorry, Justin.
Scotty Reinshield getting clipped by Brad Neer heading into turn 3. Brad Patterson looking to try and add a second win this season collected. Caution flag comes out before Ray can try and serve the pass-through, and that's significant damage for Reinshield and will mix up the field here, as you'll see with the contact with the Amsoil instant replay.
It's worse for him because Brad Patterson slammed into that 27 of Reinshield, and it's taken his engine out. So unfortunately, Brad Patterson got the worst of that one. Motor is destroyed in that track.
And that's really unfortunate for him. A strong run, won earlier at Talladega at one point, and now done for the day with the blown engine. It's at least a 30-minute repair. It was 24th in the total points for the non-playoff point standings. Ray having to go down the pits. Patterson with the blown engine goes down. Brad Neer, who made the contact, has front damage, will stay up at the front, but the question is, they do give end of longest line penalties for drivers who trigger cautions. He might be the possible driver with that, as Reinshield's coming in to collect him. And my goodness, Brad Neer in the LSRTV truck has been hit with retaliation by Scotty Reinshield, as Scotty Reinshield has parked the truck.
That's going to be a big penalty. That's out of order.
Yeah, that's definitely not going to go over well with race control there. That is, I mean, it's good to show some type of displeasure, but at the very least, the least you could do is just an engine rev, but my goodness.
Absolutely uncalled for, I have to say. He has been instantly disqualified from tonight's race after taking the tow truck, as you've seen on your screen, and not what you want to see, because I know there's the implications. Scotty Reinshield was 13 points above the cut line heading tonight. With how far he will drop right now in terms of the drivers running on the track, there are more than 13 on the track. That could hurt him for the playoff standings. But race control already mentioning you have to make sure you keep your cool, and even though it's a cut-off race, with this being an important race in the bomb track fabrication playoffs.
Yeah, and tensions run high. And that was a bit of a Kyle Busch one, to be honest. Back in the day, Kyle Busch, not the current Kyle Busch, but yeah, that's some short track behavior right there, and it's not the sort of thing we want to see on track.
And with that, right now, drivers behind the pace car still, as Brad Neer staying out after having the contact there with that moment. Right now, the top 5 is the way as it goes. Brad Neer, Matt Kingsbury in second, Brent Keith in third. Doyle Rance is up to 4th now after that, with Everett F. Lane, remember he spun out before, in the 5th spot. James Hickson also having a strong run. A quiet night so far, up from 22nd to 6th, with Keith Stewart, Marshall Berry, Gregory Thompson, and now Malik Ray rounding off the top 10. Remember, Ray had to go down the pits, and he's been given an end of longest line, so moved Tyler Hayes up to the top 10.
And remember, that end of the longest line is essentially a compensation for passing on the apron, for that lane change to the apron on the restart. So Malik Ray going back again to the back of the field, but don't forget, he's managed to make his way up quietly through the field through the first huge majority of this race. Now the question is, how quickly can he make it back up, because the laps are closing down and we're just about on 50 laps to go here. And well, as the lights look to be going out, and they are, should be having a 49 lap run. So that's something that Malik Ray hopefully can make up in time.
Also going off the track, that you might have seen there, was Brad Neer. Remember, he made the contact there with Scotty Reinshield that triggered the caution, so electing to go down to the pits maybe get some repairs with there being one to go, but more than likely having to go towards the back of the field. But with that, as you can see now, lined up behind the pace car, this is now the official grid. Matt Kingsbury starting alongside Brent Keefe on the front. Doyle Rance up to third with Everett F. Lane. James Hickson rounds out the top 5, and Keith Stewart is now the third highest playoff driver in the field in 6th. Barry now up to 7th, also still on track. 13th, Doug Lemons in the playoffs, as well Ray back to 16th on the track as he'll have to start at the end of the longest line. Sean Powell 1 lap down as well as the field enters its way through turns 3 and 4. We'll have to see how this restart goes, entering lap 85 of 133 for the AMSOIL Kansas 200 for the eSpeed Contender Series. The round of 12 cutoff race for the Bomb Track Fabrication Playoffs is back underway here at Kansas Speedway. And a pretty clean start here tonight after all this, and right now top 4 now single file. But look at James Hickson trying to make a run now to get alongside Tyler Hayes to battle for a top 6 position.
Yeah, it's getting pretty busy down there, 2 by 2 as they're shuffling around here. And one thing they need to remember is these cars go up and down the racetrack a lot, and it could really get in the way of these guys if they unfortunately move a little bit too soon. It can get someone really trapped.
And now Barry up to the high side. James Hickson tries to follow on in. Bobbles a bit. Now Mike Bruno's going to try and make the high side work, as they'll be side by side for that 7th position. As meanwhile, Barry goes side by side. It's currently 2 by 2 for 3 sets of positions, with Mike T. Bruno's moving by Hickson. Barry moves by Hayes. Stewart moves by Lane, as now the top 3 still remain single file as that goes on behind them.
Oh, somebody dodged way low to the apron, and that was a 22 of Hickson. I thought he got loose off the corner. He actually did. He managed to hold it. He managed to thankfully hold on to that vehicle and fall just about to, looks to be roughly 11th place. But Keith Stewart now, he's got a shot at this. Right now, he's going to have to worry about that 05 Marshall Berry, who just moved his way past Everett Lane to the 5th place position now. So it's top 2 playoff drivers. Doyle Lawrence in 3rd, who is a non-playoff driver, and then 4th and 5th, also playoff drivers.
And you got to keep your eye on Keith Stewart in that must-win situation. Came in last in the round of 12 for this cutoff race tonight, and now up to 4th in the must-win situation, starting to reel in those drivers down the backstretch. Last time, matched the fastest time of the racetrack from Doyle Rance, so he's picking up the pace in the late going.
Yes, and he is, and trying to get something moving here to get himself some positions in the late going of this race. And well, Matt Kingsbury slides up in front of the 32 of Brent Keith, who's recovered himself towards the front now. Doyle Lawrence in 3rd place, trying to get some traffic here, but Kingsbury looking at the strongest horse all race.
Yeah, Kingsbury's been very strong all night long, leading a lot of times throughout the night, and is getting stronger and stronger, especially on the restarts. As now, the question will be, how will it be if we have a long run here? Now into lap 90, with still a ways to go in this one, with the top 3 now still trying to space away from Stewart, who is now still the fastest truck on the racetrack.
Yeah, like Rachel mentioned earlier, a lot early in the race actually, don't have to worry about fuel as well, Rachel will chime in if I'm wrong, but nonetheless, though, 14 laps for the top 3 on their tires. The thing is, it's going to be, well, almost 15 laps for the lead drivers now, and it's going to be just about 9 laps for Keith Stewart right now, actually. So he's got about 6 lap fresher tires, just off the top of my head, and right now, with these 2 battling in front, as Doyle Lawrence moves to the inside, this could really help him out for this position gain right here.
Doyle Rance right now the highest non-playoff driver side by side for the battle for 2nd. And that's going to help Stewart catch up a little bit as Keith goes up the track. Lawrence slides up the racetrack. Stewart tries to follow the hole on the high side as Lawrence goes up towards the apron. But Stewart, pardon me, is right there side by side through turn 1.
Yes, certainly is, and holds it on the high side here above the 8 truck of Doyle Lawrence. Can he make himself a little bit further ahead? He's got the draft from the 32, which will help on the back straight here. It pulls him past. That's exactly what he needed there.
Exactly what he needed. Brent Keith, meanwhile, he's one of the first trucks right now trying to use the high line that's supposed to work in the next couple laps and establish that. This time it works because he gained at least a truck length and a half, in part with the drop behind from Stewart on Matt Kingsbury. He responds by going up to the high side. Everyone in the top 4 is up high. Marshall Berry stays low for turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, trying to make sure that everything is fine, taking the correct lane, not to really stress the tires too much. You know, Marshall Berry's on the same amount of laps used in terms of tires, 12 laps now for Keith Stewart and Marshall Berry, so they have about 6 lap fresher tires. So they are very quickly on a roll right now. They want to make a statement, and again, Keith Stewart coming into this race minus 27 points. He started 25th. Every single time he comes here, he's so close to just pretty much, if he's in first, then in live timing, then he'll be roughly 2 points out minus bonus points. But Keith Stewart is essentially in the must-win situation here, and that's just of a rough estimate just to get above the cut line, not including anyone else's points getting factored in.
And based again on the 6 lap fresher tires, he might be in the case where he might. Do you think maybe he's hoping this thing stays green at this point, you think, Rachel, especially with that bit of a fresher tire advantage that's helping them set the fastest laps on the track?
I think that's what he could do at this point, and staying green looks like it might happen. The field's pretty spread out at the moment, which will help that, but there's enough pods of cars racing, like Gary Aaron Stewart right here. Side-by-side contact there, in fact, with the 85 of Paul Bliss. That's kind of exactly what we're talking about, you know, even spread out. There's little bits of action which should lead to problems that we've seen all night.
That's where I was about to mention off next, because Paul Bliss, also a playoff driver, came into tonight plus 15 in the points. He's in a big-time battle for the 6th spot to try and get another point on Kerry Alan Stewart. Alan Stewart responds by charging in hard on the bottom side. He slides up the track, almost taps Paul Bliss, just misses contact.
That was insanely close. My goodness, amazing job though by both of those drivers to not pretty much completely contact each other. That was absolutely insane. That was great avoidance though by essentially both drivers, mainly by the 56 who's sliding up the racetrack. That's usually the time where you can't really do anything about it. But he's still going to be coming past that number 19 of Mike Bruno for position at number 7, as the majority of the first field is still single file, and Kingsbury's broken away, was it, Justin?
I was going to say Alan Stewart just hit the wall. Remember, we were talking about him. He just hit a big-time tank slapper to the outside to lose some extra spots. That almost became contact with Mike T. Bruno, so that ends up losing even more time. So that truck is starting to really drop on back, that 56.
Yeah, that'll really hurt him there in that point of the racetrack. It's not a good time to be having damage on the car, because with nobody to really draft off, it's going to cost you so much room.
And it's starting to get scary because they're working their way by past lap traffic, some of these trucks. Tim Marlowe hit the wall while letting by the race leader Matt Kingsbury by, and because they got bunched up a bit trying to get by Marlowe, that opens up the Doyle Lawrence's door to go side by side now for the 2nd spot. As he's now at the bottom, Keith almost tapped the wall. It looked like maybe checked up a bit for the entry. Tries to diamond it back off with Keith Stewart, nearly giving him a love tap as they're back side by side to the trial vault.
And Stewart didn't really know where to go, so he just stuck with the middle off turn number 4 there, and well, still just an amazing job, and Doyle Lawrence doing a great job as the 32 slides up the racetrack, stays off the 7 and the outside wall. And comparing a lot of times, it looks like, well, of course, Kingsbury is the fastest out of these top 5 drivers, rather, actually. So 30.3 last time around. This time around, I'm going to wait for the lap times update, 30.2. And then going back to Keith Stewart, who was pointed out to be the fastest driver a few laps ago, 30.3, so a tenth faster than Keith Stewart is the 21 and Matt Kingsbury. And of course, don't count out Brent Keith, who is also going to be coming into this battle. And Marshall Berry, who's also in 5th, he's going to be trying to work his way into this battle anytime soon in a few laps, and he's running about 30.5, so he's about 10th faster than the driver in front of him, Brent Keith.
32 laps to go for the Amsoil Kansas 200. And while this has all been going on, as you mentioned with the top 5, it's a 1.12 second lead for Kingsbury over Doyle Lawrence right now up at the front. The question is, will that start to close with everyone now single file? As again in the 4th spot, Keith still shuffling up the racetrack, it looks, on the corner entry, so that's a bit interesting. The way it's starting to swing a bit to the right at the entry of turn 3 towards the wall before he goes back onto the gas. It seems to go against the wall through the apex.
It's an interesting line, but on older tyres, it makes a lot of sense to try to race it that way, get the car moving more through its angle rather than trying to keep a constant radius. So really good technique to get it around the corner.
Really good technique there to get them up right now, try and get away from Marshall Berry essentially, but look who's coming. Paul Bliss, he's been setting very fast times, this time by the fastest out of the top 6, makes that fastest, yes, second fastest rather, to Doyle Lorenz. So he is now closing into this battle in the 6th spot, needing some extra points for a cushion.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job starting to catch up. Multiple drivers are starting to catch up. Quick second to look, and yeah, fresher tires, about 6-7 lot fresher tires. I'm starting to see a pattern here for some of these drivers, and a few of them may have saved their tires ever so slightly. Marshall Berry is just slightly off that number 32 of Brent Keith for the time being, but last time around, Doyle Lawrence was the fastest driver out of this entire top 5, fastest driver on the racetrack essentially, with a 30.302. Matt Kingsbury, with a 30.404. We could be seeing Doyle Lawrence start to catch up in a few laps.
And remember, I mentioned it was a 1.12 second gap. It's down to 0.76 as Kingsbury enters turns 1 and 2. And this is where it looks like Lawrence is starting to gain up some time. Gains a little bit on the entry, it goes back to what it was at the beginning of the corner through the apex. Then, for the exit, he ends up chipping away about a half a tenth, give or take. And that's starting to really help Lawrence close in this gap. And Kingsbury really slow this time through turn 4 as the gap has cut itself in half from 10 truck lengths down to under 5 in the span of turns 3 and 4.
That is super tight, and that's going to change exactly how this thing races for these guys, because now they're in really close range. Draft is a major factor here.
Meanwhile, Paul Bliss behind moves up to 5th. The battle focus, though, on the lead. Truck gap is about 3 truck lengths as Doyle Lawrence slides up the track trying to get a bit of a run. I think he might actually tap the wall as he now has right front fender damage and has lost a significant amount of momentum, and that could cost him a try to battle for the lead with under 30 laps to go as Stork reels him back in because of that contact.
Yeah, he had definitely a small run with the outside wall coming through turns 3 and 4 on the entry. I believe he's had that right front damage though, and it's amazing that he managed to really reel in that number 21 for the time being. So entering a little bit lower, it's going to be that number 8 machine trying to do the best he can. And with these exits off turn number 4, from the angle that I'm seeing it at, my goodness, this is very stressworthy. I feel like they're going to hit the end of the safety barrier when they come off of that corner. That's how close they are to this wall. But again, Keith Stewart has that number 8 in his sights, and Brent Keith has the 7 in his sights as well. Just riding back, it's going to be Paul Bliss and Marshall Berry. Just watching this happen on in front of them from a very safe distance in the case anything were to happen in front.
Kingsbury's out to a 1.4 second lead now because of that rub against the wall. But there's a chance that can close back up again because Lawrence is starting to get the momentum back slowly but surely. Is there enough time, you think, to try and close up the time, especially since they're starting to work their way a little bit through lap traffic again, starting with Doc Stout?
I think it's entirely possible. It just depends on how they actually end up playing this thing, because the lap traffic could definitely factor and typically does, but it can also help you with the draft. So they're not that slow normally that they cause a major problem, but with 15 on the lead lap, there's a lot of lap traffic out there still. But actually, no, we'll take that back. We have, I believe, 4 cars lead the lap down, so it's going to be less of a major issue. Brad Neer, though, one of the guys who really didn't want to be down there and lap down, but unfortunately now is Patterson as well. So unfortunately, one of those a victim of retaliation, which was completely
trouble, backstretch. Tyler Hayes has spun around. That will trigger out the caution as he spins on the apron heading down the backstretch. So once again, back under yellow with 22 laps to go, closing in on that mark for the AMSOIL Kansas 200, and this changes everything.
Yeah, this changes completely everything, and well, so much for tire saving. Now it's time to pit and take 4 tires. This is definitely the time that you'd be more than welcome to open it, because at the time, 36 laps on their tires, 30 for Keith Stewart, and Paul Bliss is actually on 29 lap old tires, so everyone's going to be heading to pit road this time by, and this essentially could be, with almost 20 laps to go, pretty much the last stop for tires. It's from what I'm assuming at least, but we have seen drivers pit with about 13 to 14 lap worn tires.
We've seen how much of a priority fresh tires have been all night. The entire field comes down to the pits. 15 drivers were on the lead lap at the time of the caution. Timmy Longwood Jr. has to be having a sigh of relief as he finished before the time of the caution, 21 seconds back of the leader. Everyone now pulls into the pits. This has to be the perfect pit stop for these drivers, with some of them ranging from 14.8s tonight to as much as 15.3s as Kingsbury had to back up into the stall.
Yep.
And now
not a great position, sorry for him. Unfortunately, Kingsbury's just messed up his entire play, and he's at a weird angle too, which will hurt things.
Yeah, that's going to slow down the pit stop to the point where the race out of the pits going to be close. He still gets the lead out of the pits. Doyle Lawrence in second, Stewart third, with Barry and Keith up at the front, but it looks like Barry has to let the drivers by, or at least Keith on by, as they sort themselves out down the access road and back onto the racetrack. A huge pit stop that also allows Malik Ray to get back into the race.
Yeah, I'm just double checking the pit exit, so a little bit of maybe a little bit of timing error, but nonetheless though, Matt Kingsbury, this is something that's actually quite interesting. Usually you think with somebody with a slower pit lane time, we have to let somebody else by. Matt Kingsbury just proved everybody wrong, as his pit lane time was a 43.5, and Doyle Lawrence, he was so close, had a 42.7, and the fastest driver essentially in the entirety of pit lane was Malik Ray, who comes out 6th place, and he's definitely in an amazing spot right now to try and challenge for that lead. And of course, again, I believe he is, well, he's not really in a must-win situation, but he is in a very great position to stay within the top 8.
Ryan Shield plus 13 coming into tonight, in a very strong position to try and secure the victory, to be one of the 3 drivers in the round of 12 to lock their way into the round of 8 via victory. Still a ways to go in this race right now. 15 total on the lead lap. Carry on Stewart now onto the lead lap in the number 56 truck. All that information about the pit stops was brought to you by Joel Real Timing. Joel Real Timing is the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel or on the pit box or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download for free or get the pro version today at joel-real-timing.com. With that though, under 20 laps to go for the AMSOIL Kansas 200, and this is going to get interesting for the drivers. The playoff drivers as they run right now. Matt Kingsbury first. Doyle Lawrence not in playoff contention second. Stewart is third, a playoff driver, with Keith and Barry 4th and 5th. Ray is in 6th. Paul Bliss 7th. Next playoff driver is Doug Lemons in 9th. The next playoff driver on back to that, you have to look a bit down the race grid because of how things have gone tonight. Like right now, Brad Neer is the next driver for that, 1 lap down, taking the wave around with Sean Powell in the pits. Scotty Reinshield not in the finale of this race, as well as situations for James Torrey tonight and Brandon Holder. So those are some of the situations for the playoff drivers. Remember, Paul Bliss as well, in the 7th spot. Also looking to try and have a strong run. 6 of the top 7, 6 of the top 8 rather, playoff drivers in for this restart with under 20 laps to go, Rachel.
Yeah, and that's going to really make things very exciting for these guys. You can't believe how hard they're going to push off this start. Now it's the time for everything. They're going to have 20 laps basically to rock this out, and they are going to give it everything. No more tire saving, it's go time.
It's go time. Who's going to put on the rocket boosters for the Amsoil Kansas 200? They work their way out of turn 4. Pace cars off the racetrack. They enter the restart zone. Will Kingsbury hold on? Doyle Lawrence on the outside. We're off and away once again from Kansas Speedway with a huge restart from, once again, Matt Kingsbury.
20 Malik Ray was all over that back bumper of the 05 of Marshall Berry. Sorry, the 32 of Brent Keith. Marshall Berry follows suit, trying to force up that 19 of Bruno to the top side. Is the 65, the 85, sorry, Paul Bliss. Everyone trying to completely shuffle out the non-playoff drivers and sort between themselves. Grab the popcorn, Kansas. This is going to be very interesting. Doyle Lawrence tries again in front of the 05, and that doesn't work out. We may have the entire top 6 on track becoming your playoff drivers.
And Doyle stuck on that high side, but look who's trying to force him up. Contact Keith! Spins around him. Ray is spinning, ends up spinning Keith around, pardon me. That brings out the caution. They all dodge him, but a huge one is another secondary wreck as it looks like Doc Stout has piled into Keith.
And yeah, unfortunately nowhere to go there, and he just ended up in, oh my gosh, they both squeezed into one spot and there wasn't enough room for their engine blown there, unfortunately for Ray, I think. Or for Keith, sorry.
And that might be the end of his playoff hopes tonight, possibly. 15 points back coming into tonight was where he needed to be. Gets slammed hard after locking up the brakes, and then bam, nowhere for Doc Stout to go. And now it looks like Keith's day is done. So that is a huge incident that can bring a lot of playoff implications as the caution flags back out.
He almost was saved just from that one turn. Of course, that's just running out of real estate there. It's more than understandable, as Brent Keith looked like he was trying to protect that position, and then Malik Ray was just trying to get back up onto the track and run for his position, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And Brent Keith, he was almost fine, and then unfortunately 2 drivers trying to avoid made contact, and it looks like Malik Ray is going to be taking a little bit of extra time on pit road, definitely trying to sort himself out. Maybe a little bit of damage, but I'm not seeing anything major.
And I think it's in part because he spun around the driver, and of course the penalty is end of the longest line, so might be just trying to serve himself to get himself in a better position where he doesn't have to let every single truck on by, because no one else elected to go in the pits other than Timmy Logwood Jr., who's coming in to just get repairs in the 14th spot. But this restacks the field with under 15 laps to go for what will be another nerve-wracking restart for these drivers, with now 4 of the top 5 playoff drivers.
Certainly is, and that's going to really shake the thing up here. It's going to be an exciting run to this one, and they've all got fresh tyres, so they're in a position where they aren't really in a struggling spot at the moment.
No, they're definitely not right now. Ray given the official end of longest line penalty now on the racetrack, by the way. But at this point, some drivers in okay positions. Doug Lemons, he's right now in a decent spot right now in the 7th position. He's coming back from, again, remember, having an incident down the backstretch in the mid-portion of the race that got him contact on the left side of his truck. He's been fighting hard to try and get himself back towards the position to fight. At this point, though, it's currently the battle of who's going to get the victory. Kingsbury, Stewart, or possibly someone we haven't talked much about tonight, Marshall Berry in the 05.
Marshall Berry came up from absolutely out of nowhere. Lights on the pace car. He's got... Nope, sorry. That was actually apparently taillights from what I'm seeing not active, but nonetheless, the light bar's still on. Not going double follow yet, but he will still. Marshall Berry will still line up in that 3rd place position. 2nd on the inside row, on the inside of the 2nd row, rather, and he's going to be right behind the 21 Matt Kingsbury. He's been doing great launches on these restarts, and hopefully Marshall Berry is more than ready for that to anticipate. And of course, 15 points up coming into this race. Next driver behind him, Paul Bliss, 15 points up coming into this race. So the only person actually that needs a win right at this point is going to be Keith Stewart. So Keith Stewart, he'll really have to be on the ball for this restart.
He has to be, because he had the biggest deficit in points, has had an extremely strong one. Started 25th tonight, as well. To be all the way up to second, has been working on the truck, it seems, all night, and getting more and more comfortable in that machine tonight to get himself where he needs to be in that Intensity Motorsports number 7. They are coming towards the tri-oval right now, towards the start and finish line for under 13 laps to go. Lights appear to be off on the pace car. The light bar is off. They go back to double them up. Let's look once again at your top 6. Right now, Matt Kingsbury alongside Keith Stewart on row 1 for the restart, with Marshall Berry in the second row in the preferred line on the bottom. Doyle Lawrence, last time lost positions for being on the top side. He's up on the top side again in 4th. Paul Bliss and Mike T. Bruno round out the top 6, with Lemons ready to chomp in at the bit in the 7th spot for the restart. If you are right now some of the drivers ready to fight for a victory and needing a victory, what do you think they need to do here, Rachel, to get by Matt Kingsbury, who is so strong on these restarts?
Grab a crowbar, because that's the only thing that's going to get you between Matt Kingsbury and a win of a race. He is ruthless, and he is not beyond using his car to do it. I mean, the guy used his car in IndyCar where you're not really meant to, so in a truck, I think he's good to do that. It's going to be a tough one to get past him. Bring a crowbar, and the jaws of life.
They work their way through turns 4, 3, and 4 once again. Who is going to come away with the trophy? Who's going to lock their way into the round of 8 tonight for the Bomb Track Fabrication Playoffs? We're about to find out. Green flag's back out. Kingsbury's off and away, with Keith Stewart having to fight Marshall Berry for second.
Yeah, Bruno completely shoved the 8 of Doyle Lawrence right to the back bumper of the 7. And of course, the only reason that Keith Stewart is right now getting attacked on the inside is because he didn't have a great start. He got a little bit of wheel spin on that restart. He's trying to fend off the 19 of Bruno as the 05 of Marshall Berry sets his sights on the 21 for the time being.
Marshall Berry has secured himself into second. Mike T. Bruno breaking up the party for Keith Stewart, with Doyle Lawrence also now to the bottom side, and a fierce battle for the 3rd spot. 3-truck battle for that position, but now Berry trying to reel in Kingsbury. Under 11 laps to go here at Kansas.
It's going to get tight here as we've got some seriously hard racing going on right now. The 7-truck, Keith Stewart pushing up on the high side. 8 behind him. Doyle Lawrence as he slides down in front of that group of cars, in front of the 19 truck there. Butting him up a little bit further towards the front. Kingsbury stretching that gap already. Marshall Berry trying to chase, but just not closing that gap in right now. Kingsbury seems to have the best truck on the track.
Right now, this time, the fastest lap, in fact, was by Keith Stewart by a full 1/10 of a second. And he's starting to slowly close in. So is Marshall Berry, getting some draft going down the backstretch right now. And Kingsbury right now trying to hold on to that bottom line. They are still fighting fiercely behind, as Paul Bliss is now being held up behind. Now 9 laps to go at Kansas.
Oh, Paul Bliss almost accidentally took out the 19 in the process. He stopped himself right at the last second. Great awareness by the driver in that 85. Tries to get behind the 19 in Bruno. Can't do anything for the time being, but that slipstream from the 05 has also brought Keith Stewart to that back bumper of the 21 with the 05 and Marshall Berry. This could be a 3-car battle for 3rd as we come to about 8 laps to go this time.
It's going to be a 3-car battle now for the lead. The 3 trucks, rather, now battling down to the tri-oval, down towards the bottom for lap number 126. Under 8 laps to go. Berry trying to hold off Stewart. Stewart nearly gives him a love tap on the left rear quarter panel, as now Stewart backs off the gas. They stay single file.
This could be it. He goes to the low side underneath Kingsbury. This is the first time someone's actually really challenged him in quite some time. And that 65 truck pushing hard. Marshall Berry going for it. The 7 goes up with the 21. Can't decide who he wants to back at the moment. Kingsbury alongside. Not really going to give him room to get back up here. 5 laps to go across the line. Kingsbury's not going to give him an inch. Marshall Berry, though, leads the way. Gets a nose ahead there of Kingsbury. But the overlap happens again into 3 and 4. This will bring up Stewart and possibly Lawrence from behind.
And Marshall Berry, for the first time tonight, has taken the lead here on LSRTV and the iRacing eSports Network, but Kingsbury crosses him up. 6 laps to go as they head down the front stretch again. Stewart falls in the tire tracks. Kingsbury tries to push Berry up. Berry tries to push him down as Berry and Stewart move up to the high side while Kingsbury pulls off the slide job to retake the lead.
Here comes Stewart down to the inside on top of that bank bumper. He'll bump draft the 05. as he got on top of that tailgate, bumps the 05 to the lead, follows the 05 through. Smart move by that number 7, taking away that passing opportunity, but I don't think that'll hold off Kingsbury. He'll up to the outside lane, side by side, as we're still closing in with about 4 laps to go, I believe, maybe 5 this time by, but nonetheless, so Kingsbury has a not so great entry, and he'll get held up, lost momentum. He'll fall back to third once again. He's the only driver within this top 3 that is still within a must-win situation.
Lapped 129 of 133 right now. Marshall Berry in the Century 21 Prestige truck, looking to try and come away with a huge victory. Now up to 2.5 truck lengths down the front stretch. Under 4 laps to go here at Kansas. Can he hold on with Kingsbury and Stewart charging, with Doyle Lawrence now trying to regain himself back in the battle as the caution flag has come out? And as we're past the point of no return, this might give Berry the victory.
I think it will, This might be it. That is it for Marshall Berry. They're going to be, 3 laps to go. This is going to end up the caution. Unfortunately for tonight, what a fantastic race we've had. What caused the caution?
Well, I found it, Rachel. Sorry, cut in, Justin. But yeah, it was James Hickson, the 22, and the 70 of Doug Lemons in turn 1. Just a little bit too close for a call there. And unfortunately, that is the cause of the caution. And that's why we are unfortunately finishing under yellow. That 22 is heavily smoking.
Yeah, I think there's still enough laps, though. Not enough laps for him to be able to still stay out on the racetrack without getting disqualified. He was 14th. Doug Lemons was battling for the spot. Doug Lemons will get a DNF from this one, as he will lose a few spots to Gregory Thompson. Brad Patterson, among the drivers, he will lose spots to at least 2 more points lost from the caution. Hickson given the end of longest line. That will move Hickson on back. That will lose him a couple points for the non-playoff standings. But with that, couple laps to go, under 2 to go. Behind the pace car, Marshall Berry is going to end up coming away with the victory tonight with a late surge. Started 18th, led his only laps of the race in the final 10 laps of the night for the AMSOIL 200.
That's one of those things. The only lap you need to lead to win a race is the last one, and turns out he got that right.
And just an unbelievable battle, too, that was going on between him, Kingsbury, and Stewart, all fighting to try and lock themselves in via victory into the round of 8. Not wanting to risk things with the bomb track fabrication playoffs for the grid for the next round. Stewart being needing a win big time in this round, coming away third. Might be a bit of heartbreak for Stewart, being the fastest truck and having the best strategy at one point in the late going of this race, Gary.
And taking a look at a few other drivers, unfortunately, from Malik Ray, he didn't really recover. He just decided to stay where he was, so he'll finish 11th. And he's currently scored 11th for the time being, so not sure as of yet. But of course, the point standings will have to be finalized a while after this race, just to accommodate for bonus points and everything else. So it is going to take a while, even with a rough estimate. So maybe the 7 Key Stewart, he's hopefully still within that opening for the top 8. But for the time being, that's just something they'll have to all anticipate in about a few days or a day or 2 to come. That's when the white flag.
White flag is out behind the pace car. Once again, Marshall Berry going to come away with the victory tonight as he continues to trail on behind. Top 4 all playoff drivers, top 3 rather. But talk about some of these drivers that were not in the playoffs that made strong runs tonight. Doyle Lawrence, Mike T. Bruno was battling at some points to battle within the top 3. Brad Patterson was battling to lead laps before blowing his motor after an incident in turn 3. That became a controversial one in this one. So a lot of the non-playoff drivers really having strong runs tonight here too at Kansas.
Yeah, certainly some phenomenal runs in this event, and these guys have really put some fantastic effort into this thing. This has been a wicked race to be on this side over the commentary box. I've absolutely loved this thing. It's been full of action, fantastic racing, some down moments, but at the same time, by and large, a whopping race.
A heck of a race by far, as Marshall Berry, who's had a pretty strong season, for America Motorsports will take the victory and come away with the checkered flag. He wins the AMSOIL Kansas 200.
And also, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because as the fireworks go on, he's got to be thinking this is an absolutely huge moment for this race tonight.
Yeah, it's an amazing moment I was going to mention, and it's great for him. Even though he was pretty much in on points, he makes it even better by making a statement to everybody saying, you know what, I don't need points. I'd rather make a statement and win as well. I believe that's his teammate right there, and the number 5 as well. So, yep, it definitely is. So, great job to that 05 on getting in the final race of the round of 13. Sorry, the round of round of 12, rather. My goodness.
Yeah, getting the victory tonight to advance to the round of 8 for the Bomb Track Fabrication Playoff for the eSpeed Contender Series. All 3 teammates going for a burnout where it looks like Brandon Holder flipped into the air, but rough nights for Logwood Jr. and as well for that number 5 tonight. Able to get a victory, though, with their teammate, with Marshall Berry. We'll look at the final results right after this. You're watching the eSpeed Contender Series on LSRTV and the iRacing eSports Network. Marshall Berry comes away with a victory for the AMSOIL 200.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Ray Alfala into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing!
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Kroenke goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying this contact though.
Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cutback here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumann, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back, everyone, to Kansas for more coverage of the eSpeed Contender Series with the AMSOIL Kansas 200. A heck of a race tonight here on the iRacing eSports Network and LSRTV. Justin Prince alongside Rachel Whiteford, Gary Weaver, Hugo Leeson down the truck throughout the action tonight. But a heck of a victory for the number 05 machine tonight to come away with the victory to lock himself into the round of 8 and a close playoff situation. Results currently looking through as well with Kingsbury, Stewart, Lawrence, Bliss in the top 5. Mike T. Bruno, Brad Neer, Carrie Allen Stewart, Tyler Hayes, and Everett F. Lane round out your top 10 tonight, Rachel.
They certainly do. 11th place tonight, Malik Ray with John Verga, Timmy Longwood Jr., Gregory Thompson, James Hickman, in 15th place, Brad Patterson, Doug Lemons, Brent Keith, followed by Bobby Everhart and Tim Marlowe in 20th.
And then the rest of the field with Sean Powell unfortunately finishing in the 21st position. Sky Brownshield finishes 22nd. 23rd is Doc Stout. 24th, James Torrey. 25th, Ryan Lang. 26th, Brendan Holder, but of course he has been locked in, so he is still into the round of 8. And Perry Snelson rounds out your 27-car field in the 6 car.
A heck of a race tonight with multiple lead changes, multiple battles, and in the end, it was Marshall Berry coming away as the winner tonight here on the iRacing Esports Network and LSRTV. Marshall Berry with America Motorsports joins us now from Victory Lane. Marshall, how are you feeling about coming away with the victory tonight to cap off the round of 12?
Oh man, I'm so excited to finally got one.
And it was a heck of a race too. You did not lead laps until the final 10-15 laps of this one. Talk us through how the truck was getting throughout the race leading up to that moment to be able to battle with Kingsbury and Stewart for the victory.
I mean, I was only good for about 15-20 laps. I actually spun out by myself in the first, I don't know, 20 laps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was pretty much a roller coaster night. Throughout the entire field, there was a lot of interesting things going on, but we got the short run when we needed it and was able to capitalize on it.
You absolutely capitalized on it to come away with the huge victory. You punch your way into the round of 8 for the Bomb Track Fabrication playoff grid. Now with the round of 8 coming right on up, Watkins Glen, Texas, Phoenix. Very different racetracks for all 3 stops. What is your focus for you and your team to try and add another victory to your totals for the round of 8?
Watkins Glen, I don't know. I've been about 10th place truck at the road courses all the other 2 that we went to, so that one's kind of a X factor for me. I don't know about it. But Texas, definitely Phoenix. I feel good about those 2 tracks, so definitely good to get the bonus points and hopefully, minimize the impact that Watkins Glen could have.
That's the key, having good points throughout the playoffs to move on from round to round here for the eSpeed Contender Series. Anyone you want to thank before we let you get going and celebrate with the rest of your teammates once again?
All of our sponsors, sim racing apps, pitboxes.com, Century 21, the guys at Intensity Motorsports, my teammates, America Motorsports. It's just we worked hard all year, and it feels really good to get the first one knocked out of the way. And I mean, I'm from Missouri, so I guess it'd kind of be my home track, other than maybe Gateway. So it was pretty cool to knock out number 1 pretty close to home.
A huge victory, first win of the playoffs, first win of the season for Marshall Berry here in the eSpeed Contender Series. Congratulations on win number 1 and punching your ticket to the round of 8.
Thank you so much.
And that was Marshall Berry coming away with the victory tonight. Rachel Whiteford's now standing by with your second place finisher, Matt Kingsbury. Rachel?
Thank you very much, Justin. Matt Kingsbury here with us tonight. Second place, started 6th place on the grid, Matt. Busy race. Elbowed your way to the front pretty early on and had a very successful race running at the front. Your truck looks strong tonight, but there was some competition late in the race, and Marshall Berry just managed to get past you. What happened?
Yeah, he just had a setup that allowed him to rotate the bottom for a lot longer than we did. I think if it went long run, we would have got back around him, but, hats off to them. They did a good job setting their car up for the perfect condition there, and we had a good race. We'll transfer into the next round after last week's disaster, so...
Of course, we know we've got a road course coming up in the future for the series. Watkins Glen, what are your hopes like for that?
Victory Lane.
Well, there we go. Victory Lane is the gauntlet thrown down by Matt Kingsbury for the rest of the series. And Matt, any sponsors, friends you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I gotta thank Rogue Energy. They've been helping us out. Check out their website. If you buy any products, you can use our code ICONIC to get a discount. Also gotta thank Mr. Patches. .net, I think it is, .org, I don't know. Got that one right still. He's going to be on board next week, start next week, and we'll have him on for the rest of the rounds. And I got to thank my teammates. They helped me out quite a bit. This week, I did a lot of the setup work, but Dover was all John pretty much, and Brad helped me out with Dega. We had a good truck at all 3 rounds. We got second every round with one of our trucks, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Well, fantastic. Well, there you go. Thank you, Matt Kingsbury, coming on today in second place. Justin?
Thank you very much, Rachel. A heck of a run from Kingsbury, and another strong run coming tonight from Keith Stewart. Keith Stewart's going to be standing by now with Gary Weaver as Keith came away in third. Gary?
Yeah, I'm standing here with Keith Stewart, who's, again, put off an amazing performance. Started 25th and moved 22 positions out throughout this entire race up to third place. Well, Keith, your thoughts after this whole race so far?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. It was an intense race. I missed qualifying, so starting back there, I just sort of had to pace myself, but I was able to weave through some of the stuff going on there and work my way to the front, at least have a shot, and on any day, that's pretty much all you can ask for, so pretty happy with that. Couldn't quite get the restarts that I needed to really get the job done, but proud of a third place finish.
And that third place finish could be your move into the top 8 of the playoffs. Of course, the Bomb Track Fabrication playoffs, the points still have to be finalized. So heading into whether you do or don't make it, what are your thoughts heading into Watkins Glen next week?
Well, Watkins Glen I've won there before in the series, so I feel pretty good about the road races. The truck's a lot of fun for me there, and my teammate Brad Neer there in the 9 truck, he's won on a road course earlier this year at Canadian Tire, so it should be a good race for us. I don't know if I'll make it into the round of 8. I hope so. I know there was a lot of controversial things that happened, so we'll have to see what the competition review board does with some of that. It could affect some of it, may not, but hopefully it's all settled on the racetrack and we made it in there. If so, we'll be grateful for that.
Yeah, it's a little bit on the edge with your position, but that would be very incredible considering that you were 27 points out coming into this race. But of course, before we let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your top 3 finish here this week?
Absolutely. I'd like to thank my teammate there at Intensity Motorsports, Brad Neer, and all the work he puts in. I haven't been available to necessarily be a part of what goes on in the setup building lately because of my personal life and work world. So a big thanks to him, and the alliance we have with America Motorsports with Brandon Holder and his group has just been like a dream come true for us to pick up and run better and be more competitive across the board, both teams. So special thanks to them, and congrats to Marshall Berry on winning his race tonight. And I'd like to also thank Racing Line, Commodore's Garage, and Bomb Track Fabrication, and of course you guys at LSRTV. Always a blast to watch, and we'll see how things shake out and move on to Watkins Glen.
Hopefully we will see you in the podium, whether you are or not in the playoffs next week. But once again, congratulations, Keith Stewart, on your third place finish.
You got it. Thank you, Gary.
And that was Keith Stewart coming away third tonight, and what was an important race for him for the Bomb Track Fabrication playoffs to try and punch their way to the round of 8. A heck of a schedule coming up, as we talked about a little bit with a race winner tonight. Watkins Glen, Texas, Phoenix. A lot of challenges for whoever will be in the round of 8 with 3 wildly different racetracks to face.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a crazy race as well to see once we get to that point. So looking forward to seeing an exciting one coming up, of course, in the near future for that. So can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait for that, as, again, currently standings unofficial, as mentioned, had to go through possible discipline review, but there's going to be a heck of a lot of drivers, regardless, that are going to be fighting hard to try and get a victory in this upcoming round. Plus, you have the guys like Powell, Holder, Berry, who have been locked in so far.
Yeah, it's going to be a very wild week next week, especially starting off with Watkins Glen. I mean, moving up through the S's, and yes, I say up because the elevation change is going to be also another key in grip as well at that track. Oh my goodness, personal thoughts for those 3 tracks. Watkins Glen, my most favorite road course track. It is absolutely fun to drive in the trucks. Texas, well, that's debatable. And then, of course, Phoenix, of course, is... Well, of course, I've won there a couple times in the trucks a few years ago, so it's pretty fun. And like Rachel mentioned, 3 wildly different tracks. So that's going to be, again, a key thing, and that's something that all those drivers in the set and the setup builders will have to accommodate for in those coming weeks.
They definitely have to accommodate for a lot. In terms of the rough math, and remember, this can still change. Drivers like Ray Kingsbury appeared to be in decent shape. Remember, they were around the cut line, but the race tonight hurt drivers like Lemons, Keith, who needed to have strong runs and had strong trucks, but went backwards, unfortunately, tonight. Random telemetry before we go is for Everett F. Lane. Once again, as to review the setups for tonight's action here at Kansas. But with that, it's time to say goodbye in the next few moments here. First things first, Bomb Track Fabrication specializes in building custom cars and CNC machine chassis components for both racing and industrial sectors. All other components are made in the USA. For more information on how to get free shipping and 5% on your first order, go to bombtrackfabrication.com. They're going to become a crucial part of the sponsorships for the playoff grid for the round of 8. The Bomb Track Fabrication playoffs for round number 8. Head to Watkins Glen to turn left and right for what should be a wild race at Watkins Glen. That one, 51 total laps on Halloween night. A heck of a night to go for a road course. You do not want to have a scare for sure on the racetrack. We'd like to also thank our sponsors, Joel Real Timing, as well as Amsoil, for being a part of tonight's race and tonight's coverage here on LSRTV and the iRacing eSports Network. For the rest of our partners, for Rachel Blackford, for Gary Weaver, and for Hugo Weiss, I'm Justin Prince, saying so long and have a wonderful night. Once again, your race winner from Kansas is Marshall Berry, his first victory of the season to come away with the victory for 2018 to punch his ticket to the round of 8. Have a wonderful night across the iRacing Nation.